What's up, guys? Welcome to Fed by Fire. I'm Christian Whitlow. So, if you've been anywhere on the internet over the last few days, you've probably seen the name CyberLeak because somebody out there appears to have gotten their hands on unreleased Grand Theft Auto 6 material that no one else has. And instead of quietly selling it, keeping it to themselves, or dumping it everything at once, they've decided to turn the entire situation into a public campaign against Rockstar. And you got to give them a little respect for that, as well as Take-Two Entertainment. And basically, the way modern video game industry does business, they're challenging all of that. And the craziest part of this story isn't even the footage itself, it's the fact that nobody really knows who CyberLeak actually is, whether CyberLeak is one person or multiple people, which that's my guess, or some kind of online person being operated by people who know exactly how difficult it is to identify somebody behind layers of internet infrastructure. And now Take-Two is actively trying to figure out, because court filings show that the company has gone after Microsoft and Discord for information that could potentially identify the people behind these leaks, including account information, IP information, and device identifiers, as well as other records connected to these accounts and servers associated with the investigation. So today I want to break down who CyberLeak appears to be, what they have released, what they say, what they want, why people think that there might not be a financial angle to this, and what the evidence actually tells us. And most importantly, whether the person is really some kind of anti-corporate hacker trying to expose the gaming industry, or whether the entire thing is a much more complicated situation. Because right now there are a lot of people online saying they know exactly who this person is, and I think if they did, he would probably be in cuffs. A lot of those people simply don't. So let's separate what we know from what we're guessing. Because as of today, August 23rd, 2026, the identity of CyberLeak has not been publicly established, and that's pretty important if you ask me, because there is already speculation online that is suggesting everything from a lone hacker in Europe to people connected to previous gaming links. But speculation isn't identification, and we know that. And until there's an arrest, a court filing naming somebody, or some other legitimate evidence tying to a real person or to that account, we have to treat it as just theories, exactly what they are, theories. But here's where this gets a little more interesting, because CyberLeak didn't just throw some random GTA 6 video onto the internet and disappear. Whoever is behind this account appears to have intentionally created an identity around the leak, using hence the name CyberLeak, using a recognizable visual identity, posting messages, the leaked material, and they eventually published what amounts to basically a manifesto explaining why they claim they're doing this. And according to that manifesto, this isn't supposed to be about simply running GTA 6 for everybody, and it isn't supposed to be about stealing money from Rockstar, at least according to the person or the people behind the account. Instead, CyberLeak claims to be protesting what they see as anti-consumer practices. In the video game industry, particularly digital-only releases, digital pre-orders, paid content that they believe is already sitting inside games, and the possibility that single-player games can eventually become inaccessible when companies shut down, when they shut down those servers or services. And whether you agree with those complaints or think they're completely ridiculous, that's the stated motivation. But then we get to the part that makes this whole thing a whole lot harder to take at face value, because CyberLeak also created a cryptocurrency connected to the project, and that's where people started asking the obvious question: if this is really about digital rights and protecting gamers, why is there a cryptocurrency attached to it? And that's a completely fair question in my opinion, because whenever somebody combines a supposedly ideological movement with a cryptocurrency, people are naturally going to wonder whether a financial incentive is sitting underneath the messages. And reports have suggested that the coin generated transaction fees, and that the person behind CyberLeak spent significant money setting up the infrastructure surrounding the operation. While online researchers have been trying to track the wallets and the transactions associated with it, but again, an important distinction on here, because making money from a cryptocurrency doesn't automatically prove that the entire leak was a scam. Just like claiming to be an activist doesn't automatically prove that the financial side doesn't matter. And right now, those two possibilities are competing basically with each other, because CyberLeak's public messaging says this isn't simply a cash grab, while critics are saying, hold on, you're leaking one of the most anticipated video games in history and directing people toward a cryptocurrency at the same time. And where there's smoke, there's fire. A lot of times it smells a little funny, if you ask me. So how exactly are we supposed to separate the activism from the monetization? And honestly, that's probably going to be one of the biggest questions surrounding this entire story. But before we get into the motive, let's talk about the actual leak, because this isn't just somebody claiming they have GTA 6. We've seen multiple clips circulating that appear to show unreleased gameplay, including footage involving Jason Duval, Vice City, and other parts of the game. And some of the footage reportedly contains details that would be extremely difficult to explain away as random fan-made material, including elements of the game's interface, mechanics, environments, and other development details. And there also have been reports of a map showing a much larger picture of the fictional state of Leonida, and the footage has been spreading so quickly that Rockstar and Take-Two have been issuing copyright takedowns of each one as soon as they see it, which doesn't necessarily tell us every single detail about how the material was obtained, but it certainly shows that the rights holders are treating the material as unauthorized copyright content. And that's important because one of the biggest questions surrounding this entire situation is how CyberLeak got it in the first place. And the honest answer right now is that we don't know. There are theories, there's speculation, there are people online claiming that they have figured it out, and there are reports pointing towards possible connections involving development environments and people who may have had access to the internal systems, but the publicly available evidence has not established one definitive method of intrusion, and that means we need to be careful with the word hacker, because people throw that word around online like it automatically tells us what happened, but hacking can involve a lot of different things, and getting unreleased game files doesn't necessarily tell us whether somebody broke directly into Rockstar's system, compromised somebody else's account, obtained credentials, accessed a development, or had some type of exploit or a third-party service. We don't know. Or maybe they got the files through somebody who had this type of access. And that's why the investigation by Take-Two is so significant, because instead of simply arguing with people on social media, the company is now using the legal system to try and identify the people behind the accounts. And according to reporting, the supposed Take-Two, they have sought all type of information from Microsoft and Discord, like we said earlier, that could potentially help identify people connected to CyberLeak. And this is where the story starts looking less like internet drama and more like a serious legal investigation. Because once companies start requesting IP addresses, device identifiers, account records, and other information through court records, suddenly the anonymous that somebody had online becomes a lot less certain, and that's something anybody running an anonymous internet account should understand, because anonymous doesn't necessarily mean untraceable. If multiple companies possess pieces of the same digital trail, investigators can potentially connect those pieces together. And that's exactly what Take-Two appears to be trying to do. And there's another interesting detail here, because some of the supposed material reportedly references multiple Discord servers and accounts, which doesn't mean everyone in those communities is involved in the leak, and it definitely doesn't mean that everyone named in a legal filing is a suspect. But we'll see what happens. What it does show is investigators are looking broadly at the digital communities, whether the information about the leak may have been circulated, and that's why people should be extremely careful about taking screenshots of legal documents and turning every username into a criminal accusation, because this is, we're just at the very beginning of this. But in my opinion, they will find out who's behind it. But supposedly, it's just a rumor, there's a dead man switch, that if this person gets locked up or something happens to them, that the game will be released online. But, internet investigations are always behind, and people love playing detective, and sometimes they're right. Sometimes they do genuinely figure out stuff, but sometimes they destroy somebody's reputation because a username might happen to appear somewhere. We don't know enough yet to say who CyberLeak actually is. Now, let's talk about the actual demands for a second, because this is where CyberLeak becomes different from a traditional ransomware situation, at least based on the public message, because rather than saying Rockstar needs to send us 10 million, 5 million, whatever, you get the picture, in Bitcoin, or we're releasing GTA 6, CyberLeak has been talking about changes to the gaming industry, including into digital pre-orders, criticism of paid content, and concerns about access to single-player games after servers or online services disappear. And there have also been demands for Rockstar and Take-Two to publicly acknowledge what CyberLeak considers anti-consumer practices. And the person or group behind the account has basically said that more leaks are to follow if those demands aren't addressed. And that's a very different strategy from simply stealing something, and demanding ransom, because the threat isn't just give us money. The threat is more like change the way you do business, or we're going to keep exposing things. But then again, there is the cryptocurrency thing sitting right there in the middle of the story that is a little fishy. And that makes the whole thing much more complicated, because even if somebody genuinely believes in digital preservation and consumer rights, they can still monetize an audience. And even if somebody makes money from an online movement, that doesn't automatically mean the underlying companies are fake. So I think the fairest way to look at this right now is that there may be multiple motives happening simultaneously, and that's actually pretty common on the internet. We've seen it hundreds of times. Somebody can believe something strongly and still understand that attention has value, and CyberLeak has certainly gotten that attention, because we're talking about one of the biggest entertainment products in the world. I mean, for God's sakes, my wife has talked about selling the PS5 several times, and you know what my reply is? We're waiting on GTA 6. A game, it's been years in development, a game that has generated enormous anticipation, and a company that has become famous for keeping its cards extremely close to its chest. So if your goal is to get attention, leaking GTA 6 is basically the nuclear option. And now here's the part that really gets crazy. Because the timing couldn't be worse for Rockstar, or maybe better for CyberLeak, depending on how you look at it, because the leaks have appeared just days before Rockstar's planned official promotional material, meaning the company has been preparing to reveal more about GTA 6 to the public while somebody else is simultaneously putting unreleased material on the internet. And that creates a completely different kind of problem, because Rockstar isn't just dealing with stolen files. It's dealing with loss of control over its marketing timeline, and that's huge in the entertainment business, because companies don't spend years creating a game and then randomly show people whatever they happen to have lying around. They plan trailers, screens, hot interviews, reveals, all that good marketing bullshit. Campaigns that take months and years in advance. And when somebody dumps footage online, they can potentially spoil mechanics, characters, locations, and other information that Rockstar wanted to reveal on its own terms. And that's why this situation is damaging, even before GTA 6 actually comes out, because the value of a surprise is enormous. And CyberLeak appears to understand that, which brings us back to the question everybody wants to answer. Who is this person? And right now, the answer is we don't know. There's no verified public name, and but we'll be keeping up with it. Tell me what you guys think about the CyberLeak case in the comments. Tell me if you think it's $1 million company, if they've been scamming us for years. Tell me if you think CyberLeak is some sort of hoax. Tell me what you think in the comments. Thanks for being here. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.